Welcome to the I Told You So podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ben Kohl. I started this podcast because I noticed an erosion of societal discourse and how normal conversations are often fueled by polarization. The I Told You So podcast offers an opportunity for healthy discourse and effective debate. I select topics to discuss and debate with listeners and guests of the I Told You So podcast. Listeners and guests predict what will happen in the future. I track predictions and announce who predicted accurately when those predictions become true. Discussions and debates can be about any topic and should be focused on what will happen in the future. The podcast offers topics where listeners and guests can discuss and debate with the goal of predicting the future so they can proudly say, I told you so. In this episode, I provide my opinion on sports gambling. We must always remember that the larger the system, the greater the likelihood of encountering corruption and confusion within it. Consider our entire legal framework, along with policies and even the regulations of activities like Little League sports. They are primarily structured to mitigate the effects of corruption. The aim is to discourage cheating and uphold honesty and integrity by rewarding adherence to rules rather than their violation. Yet, there are certain human pursuits that appear to contradict this principle. Consider gambling as an illustration. It operates as a deterrent to behaving morally, such as being responsible and a responsible steward of one's resources. We typically observe a comprehensive view where work, saving, and investment are all seen as virtues, while being a good steward is an endeavor all should strive for. Consequently, squandering money and introducing false incentives into an economy run contrary to common sense. Last April, the Wall Street Journal featured a front-page story with the headline, quote, NFL bans 5 players over sports gambling, unquote. According to reporter Andrew Beaton, the National Football League took action against 5 players, with 4 from the Detroit Lions, for violating the league's gambling policy, the most significant crackdown since the widespread legalization of sports betting across the United States. This highlights the rapid growth of the legalized sports gambling industry in recent times, surpassing many initial projections. Why is this development noteworthy? After all, sports and gambling are not new concepts. The significance lies in the fact that historically the United States, along with sports leagues, have vehemently opposed the mixing of sports and gambling. They've argued that such a combination poses significant risks, especially for those involved in sports, be it players, managers, or team owners. Introducing the moral complexities and inherent temptations of gambling into the realm of sports raises serious concerns. It prompts us to ponder the potential consequences, and the answer is clear. A multitude of issues could arise. However, we find ourselves in an era where morality seems negotiable and concepts that once seemed unquestionable, not only due to strong principles but also legal convictions, have been challenged. Earlier in the 20th century, there was ample evidence demonstrating that sports and gambling were incompatible. The potential for numerous problems to arise in this scenario should be evident to all, spanning from grassroots sports to the highest professional leagues. What presents a particular risk of corruption? It's the gambling nature itself. Consider that in gambling, the critical issue revolves around establishing the odds and the resulting incentives that arise from betting on or against a team based on those odds. The key to winning big in gambling lies in defying the odds. For instance, if the majority predicts that Team A will win a game and they do, the potential for significant gains diminishes due to the large pool of winners. Conversely, betting on the underdog in their victory could yield substantial returns. But this strategy requires a nuanced understanding of the entire process to capitalize on it. However, the allure of corruption in the context is almost irresistible. The crux of the corruption temptation lies in historical scandals, such as the infamous instances in Major League Baseball, where games were initially, quote-unquote, thrown. This involved players betting against their own team and orchestrating their team's loss to profit financially. One might initially perceive the solution to such corruption as straightforward. Simply prohibit betting against one's own team. However, the reality is far from complex due to the pervasive and intricate nature of corruption inherent in the workings of human society. Moral disincentives to do right and incentives to do wrong permeate these systems. In leagues where various individuals are involved, the potential for diverse incentives exists, extending beyond mere betting against one's own team. Participants may be tempted to engage in activities such as game fixing, arranging outcomes, or cheating in indirect ways. This complexity explains why the NFL's regulations regarding legalized sports gambling extend beyond merely forbidding players from betting against their own team. They are prohibited from any active involvement in gambling related to their sport. Andrew Beaton also highlighted in the Wall Street Journal, quote, "The bans imposed by the NFL underscore the mounting challenge confronting the sports industry as sports betting gains increasing traction. Professional athletes, like any other individuals today, can now easily place legal bets with a few taps on their smartphones. Leagues such as the NFL are confronted with the complex task of both preventing their personnel from participating in this practice while also exploring the new revenue streams it presents." Unquote. This presents an opportune moment to reflect on the impact of corruption on the world. Sports leagues risk losing their business entirely if the public perceives their players' involvement in gambling as compromising the integrity of the sport. Yet, they are enticed by the financial gains offered by legalized gambling, eagerly anticipating the substantial revenue potentially reaching millions and maybe billions of dollars. Thus, team owners and management find themselves in a precarious position, desiring both the preservation of rules safeguarding the integrity of their sport and the final benefits are derived from gambling on it. They actively pursue any and all revenue channels. In 2018, the United States Supreme Court invalidated the 1992 Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act, known as PASPA, which favored only a selected few states for legalized sports betting. The court deemed Congress's favoritism toward certain states as unconstitutional, although this ruling did not signify a blanket approval of legalized sports betting. Congress retains the authority to regulate such activities under the Interstate Commerce Act. However, the current political climate suggests that it is unlikely for Congress to take decisive legislative action on this matter. Therefore, Congress appears to be abstaining from any involvement. Sports at various levels are increasingly intertwining with gambling, including collegiate sports. However, concerning professional leagues, it's crucial to note that Las Vegas was historically off-limits territory. Yet, with the presence of the NFL team and the most recent Super Bowl in Las Vegas, the epicenter of legalized gambling in the United States, one cannot help but question the potential consequences. Simultaneously, within collegiate sports, significant issues arise concerning the collegiate teams and the administrations of America's colleges and universities. particularly at the highest echelons of collegiate sports. These entities are also eager to capitalize on revenue generated from legalized sports betting. However, in many cases, their own players face restrictions not only by moral guidelines, but also by legal age limitations, preventing them from participating in betting activities. Major universities have entered into agreements with betting companies, but some have retracted from these partnerships due to evidence suggesting that these companies have been actively soliciting college students on campuses to place bets, both for and against their own teams. Remarkably, these solicitations are targeting individuals who are not even of legal age to participate in betting activities. Those in positions of authority bear the responsibility of safeguarding against distorted motives that could corrupt legitimate human activities. Sporting activities are legitimate human activities, epitomizing the importance of rules and integrity. No one desires involvement in sports, whether as a fan or participant, if the outcomes are predetermined and tainted by corruption. Regrettably, we are well aware that wherever there is significant cultural interest, widespread engagement, and ample commercial opportunities, there's also a heightened risk of things going awry, often rapidly. Consider the recurring scandals surrounding events like the Olympics, which ostensibly aren't even about professional sports. When it comes to such involvement at any level, it may be challenging to prevent a few individuals from betting on or against their grandchildren's Little League team. However, it's a considerable leap from just isolated incidents, which may fall outside legal scrutiny, to advocate for youth sports leagues to benefit from a new revenue stream through legalized sports betting. You might dismiss the notion of introducing gambling into youth sports leagues as absurd, considering the potential or corruption and distortion of something inherently pure and fair. If it's deemed unacceptable for youth sports leagues, why should it be acceptable for professional leagues like NBA or the NFL or even collegiate sports? Because this is a podcast about predicting the future, my questions to those listening are, what happens next with sports gambling? Will it continue as is, experience more regulation, or grow exponentially? Let me know. Text or call 1-785-473-3721 or send an email message to ITYS at BenKohlITYS.com. That's ITYS at BenKohlITYS.com, or post on any of my social media channels. If there is another podcast platform that you prefer, please let me know that too. Go to the I Told You So podcast website at BenKohlITYS.com. That's BenKohlITYS.com to connect and get your own I Told You So items at the merchandise link. Shirts, hats, hoodies, sweatshirts, whatever you want. Coffee mugs, it's all there. I offer a safe space for healthy discourse and effective debate. And it's all with the goal of predicting the future so you can proudly say, I told you so. Also, if your business or organization is interested in advertising on the I Told You So podcast, please let me know. Thanks for tuning into the I Told You So podcast. Followers of the podcast are very important, so please follow, like, subscribe, give a high rating, and share with your friends. I'm your host, Dr. Ben Kohl, and I hope to hear from you soon.